Let me know when you're ready, yeah? You ready?
Yeah, so just tell me before I start, what's the format? I guess if it's going to be recorded, then it's not interactive, right?
And then basically,
It is.
what do you call it? Open mic type of.
This is more interactive.
It's more interactive, yeah. The people, ask questions, you answer, whatever it is.
Okay, so everyone.
It's not like only you're speaking. And if you want to eat a piece of kugel or tap a thing of
Okay, if I'm being videoed, I'm not going to eat.
you can do whatever people eat during this, whatever you want. Let me know when you're ready, because I want to record separately. Are you ready?
I'm ready whenever you are.
Go.
Okay, so we're going to start actually with something from last week's Parshas Shmini, a fascinating medrash, which is brought down in the Yakut Me'am Lois, which is a collection of many medrashim, that he asked the following question. We know that there are two simanim that make a behema tahira. There's mafreses parsa, that has split hooves that go all the way through, and male geira, it also chews its cud. And the Torah describes 4 behemoths that don't meet the criteria of having both, and one of them is a chazir. And the Torah says, "V'es chazir, you should not eat a chazir, ki mafris parsahu, because it has split hooves, but v'geira einena mala, doesn't chew its cud." So the Mefarshim ask on this pasuk, if you could explain to me why you should not eat a chazir, what should it say? V'es chazir, don't eat. Why? Because it doesn't chew its cud. Why did it say the chazir should not be eaten? Because it has split hooves, and it also doesn't chew its cud. So the Medrash says a fascinating thing. The Medrash says it's adrava. The exact opposite is true. Because the chazir has split hooves, that's why you're not allowed to eat it. That's why it's a behemoth tameya. What do the Chazal tell us about the chazir? That it rolls over on its back and it lifts up its hooves to show, look, I'm a behemoth tahira. Says the Torah, because the chazir rolls on his back and tries to show that he's a behemoth tahira, that's why you can't eat him. That's a chazir. Don't eat the chazir. Why? Because ki mafris parsahu, he has split hooves. And he's showing off his split hooves despite the fact he doesn't have the siman of v'geira inena mala. And therefore, tumei ahem lachem, therefore it's going to be tamei to you. So the Medrash says, a murdika zach. A murdika, an amazing lesson which we can all try to incorporate it into our thought process. Says the Medrash, it's a remez la'anashim. It's a hint to men, to humans, that sometimes people also show off their hooves. They show off their simane tahara. Some people do it when they're davening in Shul. They'll have a very long Shmoneh Esrei. Some people will pull the talus all the way down over their eyes. Some people will swing really hard by Shmoneh Esrei with their shakaling. People have the simanim, but sometimes when they're all alone in the privacy of their homes, they might do things that don't look so holy. Says the Medrash, this is what we learn from the chazir. That why is the chazir tamei? Because it shows off in public. It shows other people it's simane tahara. But in truth, when it's hidden, it doesn't act with the same simane tahara. And therefore says the Medrash, v'chein Edom, the people of Edom, Marim Edom, the country Edom, which Chazir is reminiscent of. It's the Malchus Rome, the Western world. It's understood to be. Says the Medrash, Edom, the Western world, Marim Shem Anashim Tovim Mibachutz. Externally, they show that they are Anashim Tovim. Morality, we are advanced, we understand what is considered good, what's considered bad, but publicly they're going to say we love the Jews, but in hidden they're going to want to uproot us from the land, the same lashon that uses by Arami, Oived Avi, Bikesh Lakar Es Hakol. That is what the Chazir of the Ed, which represents Edom, is that they'll externally show off, yes, we are cultured, we are sophisticated. Germans are the classic example of a sophisticated country, but could be so cruel and so wicked and so terrible when they're left to their own lifestyle. And it says, Micha says, the Navi Micha says, Hagid l'cha adam ma toiv. I will tell you, man, O you human, ma toiv, Uma Hashem derish memcha. What does Hashem want from you? Ki emasois mishpat v'avas chesed v'hatznei alecha sem elokecha. What Hashem wants from us is asois mishpat, number 1. Number 2, ahavas chesed. And number 3, v'hatznei aleches im elokecha. So says the Medrash, Koloimar, Hashem is telling us, you want to know how you should lead your life. What should you do? You want to be a good person. How should you lead your life? Says the Medrash, says the Pasuk, Asois Mishpat. That means if you have a disagreement with a neighbor, if you have a disagreement with a relative, with a spouse, you ask a shayla like two good friends that get along together. We have a disagreement, we don't agree with how to raise the children, we don't agree with how to mow the lawn, we don't agree with how to clean the garbage. Let's go ask an arbitrator, go to a Rav and ask him what's the right thing to do. That is asois mishpat. The next thing is avas chesed, that we should love each other. People should get along with each other, do favors for each other. A person shouldn't say, why do I have to work hard for my neighbor to take care of him who's struggling? Let him struggle. Shalom alay nafshi, I'm doing fine, I'm paying my bills, I don't have to worry about my neighbors. No, we have to do avas chesed. And the ikar, says the Medrash, v'ikar chayfetz HaKadosh Baruch Hu shenatzniya leches b'maseinu, that we have to be tzanua with our actions. Even the mitzvahs that we have to do in public. For example, if we have to go to a levaya, if we have to make a wedding, if we have to burn our chametz erev Pesach, if we have to make a lag ba'omer fire, whatever we need to do, we do it bitzina. We don't show it derech yuhara, rather b'tzerech tznius sheloi shabchucha habriyas. People you shouldn't want people to praise you. And ve'ein tzerech loimar, mitzvahs that have to be done in private, we should never tell anyone that we've done it. For example, we shouldn't tell people who we donate money to, because that's tzedakah, that's between us and Hashem. We shouldn't want anyone to know the mitzvahs that we do. Why? Because Hashem be'ikr wants from us v'hatznei leches im elokecha. Yes, you have to be mechanech your family, absolutely. You can let your children know your secrets. But even then, I'll share with you a beautiful story about a woman who I know very well. Her name is Mrs. Leah Hachberg from Baltimore. That when she became sick, suddenly, her children started getting phone calls from people that, your mother's been supporting us for so many years, and now they didn't know she was on an incubator and that she couldn't write the checks anymore. They didn't know that. But the children only found out because the mother was out of it, and they started getting the phone calls. So that's called vatznei alecha sem elokecha. We do it multiply. Why? Because then we're really serving Hashem. If the neighbors don't know about it, we're serving Hashem. We're not serving the neighbors. We're not doing it for a public reason. So, for example, another example, someone's fasting. Let's say someone fasts Bahab. Bahab is coming up this week. Or if someone has a tainis chalom, no one needs to know about it. Keep it to yourself. He brings down here a medrash that says, Maisa b'chased echad, that died. A man died and he came in a dream to his friend, and he said that in the Olam HaEmes he saw a woman, this must be a mashal, whose ear was jammed in a door in Shemayim, whatever that means. And he asked, why is your ear jammed in the door? And they answered because she used to fast, and she told her neighbors about it.
What's the Medrash?
A Medrash says that.
What's pshat? Something to do with a slave, and they put his ear to the door, something on that?
So that's a good question. Is it connected to the Avid Ivri? What's the idea of the being jammed in the door? Perhaps it could just be because she was interested in people hearing about her. Maybe it's symbolic that it's something should have been unheard and she made it public, and for that alone she was punished.
Her door open to the public.
For example, yeah.
It's meaning that she's that's lefi her madrega. Because some people need recognition, because if they don't get any recognition at all, they can't move forward.
Correct.
One has to know themselves, right? No.
Right. So we're talking about the madrega a person should strive towards is that I'm doing this because Hashem, I'm an Eved Hashem. I want to do what Hashem wants from me. And that means there's no need for anyone to know, and there's no reason for anyone else to know what I'm doing, because I'm doing it for Hashem. I'm not doing it for the neighbors, or for my spouse, or for my children. They don't need to know what I'm doing above and beyond the letter of the law. So the Medrash says, so let's say they ask you, are you fasting today? Then you're allowed to answer, because it's not you who's initiating the conversation, it's them who are asking you. And he says, the best thing is, even if they ask you, try not to even let people know, just change the topic, try to avoid it, because again, it's between you and Hashem. There's no reason for anyone to know the private things going on in your life, just like people don't have to ask how much money do you make, or how much do you spend on Shabbos for food. It's none of their business. It's none of their business if we're doing a mitzvah or not. It's between we and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's V'hatznei alecha Hashem Elokecha, and it says the klal is Kechol shemastir adam masav hatoivim harei zeh meshubach. The more we hide the good things that we do, we're more praiseworthy. The less people know about us, the more praiseworthy we are, because then we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu truly. We're not doing or being inspired or by recognition that other people might need.
Interesting, by the Seder actually says the same thing, but it's the opposite though. We speak about what happened to us, but our
So when we're showing gratitude to others, the more you thank Hashem, thanking people, that's already a shaila in Hilchos Lashon Hara, how much you're allowed to publicize that people have money and are able to help you, because then other people may run them dry. Right.
Who said it? One of the Lashon Hara things, someone said he took on teaching someone how to play hockey or skate for free, and the next thing you know, he was bombarded with phone calls. The free lesson.
Can you teach me?
It's questionable if it's Lashon Hara or not.
Very nice. Then the Medrash says, if we are careful to hide from the people who are Ma'aseh Hatoivim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us, and therefore, even if there's going to be a coronavirus, says the Medrash, even if there's going to be Misa and Machalais, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be megan on the person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect the person, like Eov says, Lagever asher darkei nistara vayasech Eloha ba'ado. Lagever asher darkei nistara, to a man whose ways are hidden, vayasech Eloka ba'ado, Hashem will make a sukkah over him and protect him from the coronavirus, from anything bad that's going on in the world. You have a special protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu if you don't allow people to know the good things that you do.
What about the concept, Rabbi, of publicizing the miracle? So publicizing the mitzvah so others can be inspired.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very good question. And to add on to the question, the Mishnah Berurah also says that there's an Indian in Siman Aleph. He talks about that sometimes some mitzvahs have to be done in public. So the answer, we're going to see the Medrash itself ask that question and answers. If it's something that's appropriate to be done in public, you should do it in public without gaiva. For example, you daven with a minyan. You want to do it right, come on time. And then people will be inspired to come on time because you come on time. They're sitting next to you, they're walking in by Yishtabach, you're there already 10 minutes before Adonai Olam. They're going to feel inspired to want to be like you. That you should do. But when it comes to doing things that are above and beyond the letter of the law, for example, giving tzedakah, for fasting, making kabbalas on yourself, those are things people don't need to know about. And therefore those things you're supposed to keep to yourself.
When the Shul makes an appeal, because I hear both sides.
Right. You see, he's giving, I should give too.
Very good.
So no, because some
Or
people,
should it be
let's
another?
say some people don't have, so we're putting people as
You're not getting down with the minion. You have to show for your children what's the proper thing to do.
Yeah.
some people, let's say, don't have, now they're put in a position because, let's say, 20 people in front of them gave, or you could have 20 people in front of them gave $1,000. This guy now feels obligated to give, but if he gives less, then he opens the door for everyone else to give less. So I always find every time a shul makes an appeal, I always find I don't know what the shul is supposed to do.
It's a tough situation. The answer is that those appeals are not for the people who are giving. I have to be careful, we're being recorded, so we have to think of how to say this properly. But the psychology behind an appeal is to motivate people to give more if that form of giving will motivate them. But perhaps in an ideal world, we would say matan b'seiser is the best thing to do. But for people who need the motivation, then this is the reality. The motivation will help them. Yeah.
But back to what you said about the sukkah that goes over people who don't advertise all the good things they do. The reason why there is a sukkah is because if they did advertise what they're doing, they get an ayin hara. Because people are looking at you and asking,
right.
oh, he's giving a lot of sukkah, oh, he must make a lot of money.
Right.
So That sukkah protects if you're keeping yourself quiet.
Very good. Excellent. So Yeshaya Hanavi in Perek Bey says a Merdika Pasuk. It says there, Ki yoim l'Hashem tzavakos. There's going to be a day of judgment of Hashem. Al kol geya v'ram. On anyone who's lofty and high. V'al kol nisa. And anyone who's elevated. V'shafel. And low. So the Medrash asks, I understand why Hashem's going to have a day of judgment for those who are high and elevated and lofty, because there's gaiva there, they're trying to raise themselves. But why shafel? Why if someone's low are they going to be judged? So the Medrash says, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to punish shnei sugei b'nei adam, two types of people. One who is geya, one who is a bal gaiva. Meaning he's a bal gaiva klape chutz. He shows other people, he's flashy, he's a showy type of a person. But there's also another type of person Hashem will punish, and that is people who inside are balei gaiva, and klape chutz, they show themselves like humble people, like tzaddikim. They want to be considered chasidim. They want to be considered a Yehudi kosher, and therefore they present themselves as a very, very holy person, perhaps with tremendous humility. Perhaps they'll daven their Shemona Esreis in a very, very, very intense way. Perhaps they'll be involved in chesed. Exactly. They're raising up their hooves, but in this way they're lowering themselves, like not to show off. Like the way they're trying to show off is by not showing off. Look how holy I am. I don't show off, right? I'm a holy person. So through this, they ultimately are hoping to get respect from other people. It says these people are senuim me'oid be'einei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're really very, very hated by HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than someone who is Tocho Kabaro, someone who's bad on the inside and bad on the outside. That's fine. Hashem could deal with Rishayim. But someone who's bad on the inside, but fakes being a tzaddik on the outside, like Esav, exactly. That is a person who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Scheiner.
What about the saying, and I've heard this from Rabbeim of the past that I've learned with, fake it till you make it.
That's a rule in business. I don't think it's a rule in Yiddishkeit. But there is.
He said it about. He specifically about Yiddishkeit.
So there's
They will end up doing it.
Rabbi Miller said it.
So what? How do you?
He said, people say, oh, they're the fakers. He says they'll fake themselves, eventually they'll fake themselves.
Right, so it's actually the Mesilas Yesharim. The Mesilas Yesharim talks about it. The Mesilas Yesharim writes a concept of chitzonios me'oreres es apnimios, that your external actions end up working backwards into you. That even if you don't feel like you want to daven, you can't have kavanah, but if you close your eyes and you put your siddur like this, you'll ultimately get kavanah. So
you don't really mean it.
So that's what. So what this idea is that you want to be able to daven, you just can't. You want to give tzedakah, but you can't. So there you're harnessing the shalol lishma to get to the lishma. But if you're doing it only shalol lishma, only for the kavod, there Tosfos says it becomes a samisa.
Oh, wow.
Tosfos says it becomes a bad thing.
Cool. So when he told me the same concept, he said he would never bet. And one of the places he boarded by, the mother would like almost push him and like force him to bench. And he said he sit there with the bencher just to pretend he was benching. He said it took a few months. He was ended up.
Yeah.
I started benching. Yeah.
So listen to this. That's the Medrash story. Maisa b'chassid echad. A Maisa with a chassid that he was very, very rich and he wanted to make aliyah. He wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. So he's traveling, and in the old days, you can't just wire your money to your bank in Eretz Yisrael. You got to carry it in a box or in a pouch, and the people would go. And what happens if Chas v'Shalom there's a big accident? If the boat sinks? If you have highway robbers? It's gahak tetzaris, right? So he was traveling through a town, and he was davening shachris in the town, and he sees someone sitting in the back of the shul who was there early, stayed late. His Shemona Esrei was mamish d'mois, tears coming down his cheeks. His mamish. His Shema Echad, he was up and down and all over the place. This person was mamish, you could see he's a Heiligayit. So he says, you know what, look, I'm going through a Makam Sakana. I have a Heiligayit, I could trust him. I'm going to give him all of my money to watch while I'm traveling, and then when things settle down in Eretz Yisrael, I'm going to come to collect my money from this tzaddik. So he goes over to him, he says, I've been watching you daven, and you're the one I can trust. I could see that you're an ernst person. I'm going to trust you with my money. Would you mind, please do me a chesed, take the money from me until I can come back. The man says, I'll put the money the same place I put my own money. I'm going to give it the best shmira you could possibly want. You have nothing to be worried about. Please, I'm happy to do a chesed for another yid. Come back whenever you need. The money will be, I'll have it ready for you whenever you come back. So the yid's very happy, gives him all of his life savings, a tremendous amount of money. He was a gavir. Goes to Eretz Yisrael, buys a house, settles down, and he tells his wife, okay, now it's time to go back. We're stable. I'm going to go pick up the money that I deposited over there. Goes back, finds the yid by davening, and he says, David, I'm back. And the man says, who are you? He says, remember, I was here a couple of months ago, 6 months ago, I left you all my money. No one ever gave me money. So he started getting anxious and then started screaming and crying. The man, Machnish Wissendik, I don't know who you are, I never heard of you. The person runs to the Aron Kodesh, she starts screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, I trusted him because I thought he was your Eved. A man appears to him and says to him, he has your money, and here's what you're going to do. Go to his wife when he's not home and tell his wife the following code. Say, your husband told me that you should give me all the money that he deposited a couple of months ago from that other person, and here's the raya, the proof that I was sent by him. Number one is we ate breakfast together on Yom Kippur before we went to Shul, and no one would know that except for them too. And number two was that last Pesach we ate chametz together. So the man waits outside the house for this big tzaddik to leave his home. He walks in, tells the wife, your husband just sent me. This is something no one else in the town knows, only we know, that on Pesach we ate chametz and that we had breakfast together on Yom Kippur. The woman said, fine, that's takaraya, that you know what you're talking about, and that my husband trusts you. She gave him all the money, and the man went on his way back to Eretz Yisrael. So says the Medrash, we learn from this story of Mordek Azach that when you see someone who's acting more than others.
That's with Leachmanavi, who told him? Who told the story?
Sounds like
this.
Hashem, no?
So this is the Yalkut Me'amloyes, which is a collection of many midrashim. Eliyahu himself, right? There's another part. Okay, at the end of the story, that Chassid went off was mishtamed. It says Lashon he was embarrassed to stay in the town because people knew that he eats on Yom Kippur and that he eats chametz on Pesach, even though he davens the way he davens. Like he had a whole persona that he built up about himself in order to make money and to whatever. So his cover was blown, so to speak. So he moved out of town and he moved into he was nishtamed. Those who know what nishtamed means know what nishtamed means. But says he's no longer one of us. His children aren't learning in Brisk.
He got Tzara. Children could be learning. Why not?
Right, that's true. Emes, right? Just because banim alavis. But it says the Medrash, you see that if a person acts in a way that's different, like more than everyone else, yesh lach shoyd boy. You have to be chayshid. V'yes hachazir. Why is a chazir tamei? Ki mafris parsahu. Because he shows his simanei tahara. That makes him tamei. You have to be chayshid. It's not a proof. There are many tzaddikim who we see are takat tzaddikim and they're acting differently than everyone else. But you have to be chayshid. You have to be careful. Another story, he says that there was a man, also this is brought down on many svarim, a man who was a Asher Muflag. He was a very, very rich man, and on his deathbed he called in his Ben Yochid, his only son. And he said to him, look, I'm leaving you over millions and millions and millions of dollars of rubles, so you should be able to support yourself your whole life. You'll never have to work one day. He says, there's only one piece of advice I'm going to give you of how you have to be careful. Hizar min hatzvuim. Hizar min hatzvuim. Umin v'hatzit kascha. Be careful from the tzvuim. What does that mean? Be careful from the tzvuim. The one piece of advice he gives his son on his deathbed. Be careful from the tzvuim. So the means anoshim that show on the outside they're from, but on the inside they're not. There's a merdika meiri, which is kedai. I heard this once, and I never forgot this meiri. It's a merdika meiri. It's a meiri. It's brought down to different places. One place where it's brought down is on the Likut on Mishlei, on the pasuk of Mitzarif la kesef v'kur la zahav, that just like silver is purified by fire and gold is purified by fire, boichein li bais Hashem. Hashem sees into your heart. He purifies your heart. Says the meiri. Hashem is boichein libois beinei adam. He says, you want to know if a person is mischased, is truly a chassid, truly an eved Hashem. Look at the chazir, who picks up his hooves. Says the meiri amardik azach. You're never going to forget this again. Says in the pasuk, vayatzitzu kol poyale oven. You familiar with that pasuk? It's in the Mishmar Shili Yom HaShabbos. You say this every Shabbos several times. Vayatzitzu kol poyale oven. Says the meiri. You know what that means? Poyale oven wear longer strings on their tzitzis than everyone else. Vayatzitzu kol poyale oven. They put on a big pair of tzitzis. Their tefillin are going to be mamish. Tefillin that are going to be impressive. Vayatzitzu kol poyale oven. When someone's doing more than everyone else, you have to be careful. You have to watch them. Boichein libais Hashem. Hashem is looking into the hearts, and therefore says the Medrash over here that this rich man told his son on his deathbed. This billionaire told his son, "Hizaher min hatzvuim." Be careful from the people who are fakers, people who show on the outside that they're religious, that they're oivdei Hashem, that they're yirei shemayim, they daven
Or is the people
extra kavana.
Show-offs.
So, go back to the first case of the man who davened along Shmoneh Esrei. It was extreme. When people are doing extreme things, even if it's an avodas Hashem, we have to be careful. Now, I'm not here to warn you about who to trust, who not to trust. We're going to turn this around and look at ourselves. We're going to analyze ourselves. What are we doing, and perhaps to show off to other people.
So when is it okay to do more?
In private, at home.
So some people wake up early and they want to go to shul early. Learn, daven.
So if there's a shir in shul and you're part of a shir,
he's there alone.
so if it's something which will be noticed and people are going to comment, wow, he's the only one in our shul who comes early to learn. If no one knows, then it's okay. Yeah, if no one knows, it's okay. But if it's going to become a zach, Yaakov shows up every morning at 3:45. He never comes a minute after 3:45 learning. Then that's a problem. You want to find another shul where people are there so that you don't stick out. Well, that's his question. Like, what do I want to do? If I want to go to learn in shul, I can't learn at home. It's going to wake up the family. What should I do? The answer is, you come to Scheiner's. There's always people here the whole day. No one's learning. It's the whole day, the whole night. There's always someone here in the Bais Medrash. It won't stick out over here. So,
we know what you need.
So says the Medrash Weiter that a few days later, this elderly man passed away, and the son remembered his tzavo, hizoher min aprushim. And by the way, the next few words are umin havitzit kascha, which is a whole conversation. What does it mean? And from tzit kascha, so they say it's going back to what we say by Shabbos mincha. Tzit kascha tzedek la'ilam, v'seirascha emes. What's the next word? Vitzit kascha elikim moraim asher asisa gedelais. So be careful from the people who are by the vitzit kaschas. It seems like people say the first pasuk low, but when it came to the second pasuk, it's like ko'ela, right? Everyone gets all of a sudden loud. So by the second vitzit kaschas, like people say it loud. Be careful from the people who say that vitzit kascha. That was another thing. There's another nekuda, sweet little tidbit on that. So hizor min aprushim. So that was the one thing he kept always in his mind. I'm going to be careful from the tzevuim, from those who are tzevuim. And he says, he brings on a story that is a fascinating story, but he says he met a Yesaima who was mamish tsanua, yirei shemayim, and he was very impressed by her. He said, he's a man, eligible male, who's never has to work another day in his life. Everyone wanted to marry him. He found this Yesaima who she was so tzniistic. She wouldn't talk to any men. She walked with her eyes down on the street, and she wouldn't walk out in public when there were men around. She wouldn't, mamish, big tzaddik. So he married her. Then into the marriage, she started saying, I want to be more tzniistic, I don't want to walk out in the street during the daytime. If there are people on the street, she wants to walk away, so she shouldn't see other men, and men shouldn't see her. And the man started thinking, you know what? I remember my father's tzavah. He's zor minha tzavuim, that when people start doing things more than everyone else, you have to wonder. So he set up this whole plan to test his wife now, who's married to, and he pretended he was going out of town, and I'm not going to get into all the gory details of the story, but at the end of the day, she was not on the inside as she was on the outside, and he was saved from this story. So listen to this end of the story, okay? End of the story was, he caught his wife in the act, and the man that she was with tried to kill him. So he ran out of the house, and he found a little street bench where he went to sleep. That night there was a big break-in in the king's palace. Someone stole things, and the police came out scouting, where's the Ganav? And they found this guy, homeless guy, sleeping on the street. They said, oh, he's the only human being around. He must be the Ganav. So they take him, they put him in jail, and they paskin off with his head.
This is the husband.
The husband, the Gavir, who was told he's Zorman at Savuim, right, from his father. So, he's in jail, and they're taking him one morning to be executed, and they have a priest who's walking him to the gallows, who's trying to tell him to confess his sins and to believe in so and to save his soul. And he tells, and then they pass by a wormy area, dirt, garbage, and there's worms all over the place. And the Galach, who's trying to convince him to become a guy, warns the executioners, don't step on those worms. You have to be careful, animal rights. You have to have mercy on the worms.
He's the thief.
So the man registers in his head, that's not a normal thing for people to say, right? He remembered his father's tzavah, he's zar minat tzavuim. He says, the Galach's a faker. Okay, let me see how I'm going to utilize this to the best of my ability. So he goes to the executioner and he says, I'm going to confess my sin. The Galach and I together robbed the palace. So the executioner tells the king sends the police, this Galach is arrested and confesses that he is the Ganav. So now the man says to the king, I want you to know I didn't, but my father Seva told me when someone is doing things spiritual, chasidus, caring for worms, for the mercy on the worms, that most people don't care about, that shows you there's something wrong with them, there's something empty on the inside. That's how I knew, simply based on that. And then he told him the story with his wife, and now the man chased him, and while he's out in the street going to sleep. So the king was so impressed that he brought the wife in, he interrogated her, he found that it was true, and he killed the wife, he killed the man that she was with, he killed the Galach, and he sent the man back home with all of his money, l'shalem. Says the Medrash, because from all these stories we learn how anyone who acts firmer than everyone else, anyone who raises their hooves in public, Yesh lachshoid boy. Why? Ki ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu roitze b'dvarim eila. Hashem does not want us to be showing off our tzidkus. Does not want us to be showing off our chasidus. What does He want? Sheha'adam yikayim ha-mitzvahs b'beisai pinima. That we should be doing the mitzvahs at home, inside. She'ish lo yira oisai. No one should see us. Ukeshayave bein avriyas, when we come among other people, al yagale davar. Don't say a word to anyone else about the mitzvahs that we do. And he says, but this was your nekuda, is only by chasidus, by inyanim which are above and beyond the letter of the law. But if it's negayah to halacha, you do the halacha. If you have to do it in public, you do it in public. But you do it the maximum tznius that you're able to possibly do. But this is the Medrash is teaching us a murdika lesson that we learn from the Chazir, that our avodas Hashem be'ikr is when we go home, when we're all alone, when there's no one around us. Where's our mindset? Where's our head? Do we look at ourselves as Oivdei Hashem? Are we coming to daven Shachris in the morning and then going out to work, and we'll come back and say hello to God a couple of hours later for Mincha, and then maybe for Ma'ariv, and then we go home and we'll watch whatever we watch, or get involved, or think other things that we might not want to think, or just live a world of gashmias, go out to restaurants and eat the finest foods, which is not connected to Avodas Hashem, just taivas. That's be'ikr, when we're by ourselves, when we're alone, the way we act then, that is where we really are doing the inner work, the work that we need to do inside of ourselves, of Avodas Hashem. It's easy when we're in Shul to shackle. It's easy when we're in Shul to put on our tefillin. It's easy in Shul to daven, to say Kriya Shema slowly. It's easy to do a 6-minute Shemona Esrei when we're in Shul. But when we're stuck on the roadside somewhere and we're davening and we have to hurry up because we're rushing, can we do a 6-minute Shemona Esrei then? It's when we're alone. That's when we really see. So Yizar Min HaTzvua means we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, maybe sometimes I'm a tzavua, maybe sometimes I'm a faker. Maybe when I'm in public, I act differently than when I'm in private. Maybe. And if so, I know I have to work on myself, because it's k'sheyaveh lebeisa, like the Medrash says, when we go home, that is where Hashem wants to see our avodas Hashem, to show that we're a real eved b'fanav. That's when no one else is around, when the lights are dimmed, when the music is turned down, when we're all alone eating supper by ourselves. Do we have kavana by the brachas, or only when we're standing by the soup machine over there and there's 18 people grabbing soup along with us, so you make a bracha really loud so everyone can answer amen? Or do you do it at home too? That's when we're really testing ourselves. So Yizar Min HaTzvua means sometimes in our lives maybe we're the faker, and we have to analyze ourselves and try to make sure that we're Ovdei Hashem consistently, that we're always doing what we know is the right thing, whether there's anyone around us, whether there's no one around us. And maybe Taka Bizoicha, besides it being a chus for the Chazir, for teaching us this tremendous lesson, Chazal say Asidim, the Chazir is going to become Tahar. One day I work for the OU in Kashrus, and one of the fascinating topics we're dealing with is kosher Chazir. We can now, with DNA, you can manufacture anything. You can alter the DNA in anything. You can take a tray of meat and make it kosher. Everything is possible nowadays. It's all being done. They're working on someone has a project of making a chazir, which is mafreses parsa and maligeira. You can do it. You can genetically modify it, and you can make a chazir with both simanim, which are tahar. Chazal say
it's not the spirit of
the Chazal say it's going to be tahar one day. One day it's going to be tahar.
Right now,
but Mashiach comes.
Right now it's not.
But what does the Chumash say?
Mashiach vet kimin. Mashiach zeh come. I saw Murdik Azach. Reb David Koh says a beautiful thing. He says, one of the klalas for Chava was that be'etzev teldi banim, that childbirth is going to be a very difficult process. He says today the women take epidural. They walk in smiling to the hospital, they're whistling and drinking Coke through the whole thing, watching movies. It's a gavaldic experience. They don't feel a thing. He says HaKadosh Baruch Hu is preparing us that in Mitzvah Hashem, the world's going to come back to the tikkun of Koydem Achet. And there won't be a klala of Be'etzav Tel Divanim. So the world is already turning around to the Mashiach Zeiten, to the time of Koydem Achet. We all be Zoiche that we should be true Ovdei Hashem. Like Koydem Achet, we shouldn't have the nisyanis that we have, and maybe Zoicha to the Gula Shleima b'mheira v'yameinu.
Does the Chumash say that the pig is not kosher, and then it says, because he does one, not the other? Or does it say the pig is not kosher because it does one, not the other? That's the question.
That's what it says.
It says
Ki.
because?
The word is ki.
That's what I'm looking for.
Ve'esa chazir.
Okay.
Ki mafris parsahu. V'shesa, right? V'geira einanu mala. We could look at it right here.
So if the key is gone,
then it would, right, exactly.
That's why the chazir is different than the bear. The bear you don't talk about.
Right, because there's many simanim. So that's the kasha, is that we have such a big thing about a chazir. A chazir has one siman tahara. A bear has no simani tahara. How come the chazir is so tamei? At least he's 50% tahara, at least. The answer is no, that's the problem. You're 50% tahar. And look at you.
That's what you show off.
Hafla v'fela. Beautiful.
Just on the kindness now that